Rogue Sun, issue number 30 from Image Comics. So, instead of continuing the main Rogue Sun storyline, this issue we're going to be taking a break on that. And yeah, the main story is put on hold, and the ongoing drama of Dylan and Ari teaming up is taking a breather. Instead, this issue has one job and one job only, and that's to sell us on a brand new Spawn Universe spinoff. So, yeah, another Spawn spinoff is on the horizon. Only this time, Caleb is getting tossed straight into the Spawn madness. So we open up with Sir John of York, better known as Medieval Spawn, and he's fighting a giant troll. It's a pretty decent opener, though I'll be honest, for a Spawn book, and I say Spawn book even though it's technically Rogue Sun, Spawn is heavily involved and it is a setup for a Spawn spin-off. I was kind of hoping for a little bit more gore, a little bit more brutality, but we don't really get that here. For anyone who's like unfamiliar with Sir John of York, he does pretty much give us a brief lore dump as he's fighting the troll. Basically, his life was a nonstop party of blood, lust, and hedonism. And then he died. And in true Spawn fashion, he cut a deal with the devil, Malboja, for a second shot at life. And now he's a Hellspawn, cursed with immortality and a serious case of medieval angst. Which just kind of gets me wondering, are there any chill Hellspawns out there? Like, I've read a bunch of Spawn stuff from the Scourged to... She Spawn, Gunslinger Spawn, Medieval Spawn, regular Spawn, King Spawn. And I get it. Like, the whole point of Spawn is the whole Faustian bargain and the internal torment. But I think it would be kind of interesting just to see a Hellspawn who's totally cool with his new life. He's just like, yeah, I serve the forces of hell, but it's better than being dead. I guess the broodingness is just kind of mandatory when it comes to being a Hellspawn. Anyway, Sir John kills the troll, and the village elder thanks him, but the rest of the villagers don't give him a hero's welcome. During the fight, John's helmet was knocked off for a brief second, and some of the villagers saw his face. So instead of thanking him, they call him a demon, they shun him. The whole classic, we fear that, we don't understand treatment. But the thing I like about this is that Sir John's response is that he doesn't give a speech. He doesn't try to convince them. He basically just says, you're welcome. And next time you need a hero, don't call me. And then he just rides off. And I'm like, dude, respect, man. It's refreshing to see a hero who's just kind of done with the ungrateful mob routine. He's not here for their approval. Sir John goes to breathe alone when out of nowhere, Caleb drops in. And Caleb throws a taunt Sir John's way, then suits up in the Rogue Sun gear and attacks. And honestly, should have seen it coming. If you've read any crossover in the history of, ever, then you know that when the two titular heroes meets, they have to throw hands first and ask questions later. It's basically comic book law at this point. Thankfully, this issue dodges the usual crossover cliche. They're not fighting because of a misunderstanding. Caleb isn't confused. He's not under mind control. He attacks John for the simple reason that he heard of the legends, he knows how tough the medieval Spawn is, and he wants to see if he can take him. And the fight itself, it's okay. The art is generally great in this series, but the flow of this scuffle felt a little choppy to me. Like, there's a panel where Caleb is in the air after a knee strike, and then in the very next panel, he's just standing there talking, only the very next panel to be chucked by Sir John. So the fight gets its point across, but it's not the most fluid action sequence this book could have delivered. Thankfully, the fight is cut short when Caleb's squire, Augustine, finally catches up and puts a stop to the nonsense. And this is where we get the actual plot. So Augustine explains they've been searching for Sir John for a reason. They need his help to stop a creature of black magic called the Withered. And that's when we get some lore dump, and the lore dump is actually kind of cool. The Withered was once Lady Guinevere. She and her husband, Lord Vigo, were nobles in name only. They were sadistic monsters who basically tortured their subjects and used their suffering to fuel black magic. So eventually, Rogue's son got wind of it and personally decapitated Lord Vigo. In her grief and rage, Lady Guinevere makes a deal with Morningstar. She promises to perform a ritual that will tear apart the veil between worlds and let Morningstar himself into our reality. And in return, Morningstar will bring her beloved husband back to life and since then, she's kind of transformed into this monstrous Withered, and she's moments away from finishing her ritual. So Augustine basically begs Sir John and Caleb to work together before all of hell, literally, breaks loose. And this is where the dynamic of the upcoming series is born. You got Sir John, the weary, cynical, broody veteran. He's like immediately on board. He's seen this kind of apocalyptic nonsense before. The problem is Caleb. This version of Caleb is a completely different guy from the one we've seen in Rogue Sun. He's brash, he's arrogant, he kind of treats this world-ending threat like it's a side quest. He thinks he can handle it alone. It's basically a buddy cop film with your stoic veteran and your hot-headed youngster. And honestly, the dynamic works. I mean, the whole buddy cop trope is a trope for a reason, and that's because tropes generally work. So yeah, you got that dynamic. Meanwhile, Augustine ends up being the heart of the trio. He acts mostly as like a moral compass between the two. He's very generous to Sir John, and he's trying to basically humble Caleb as much as he can without being overbearing or being like a lecturer. He's basically trying to mold Caleb to be the hero that Caleb could be, rather than the hot-headed youngster that he currently is. So the trio eventually tracks the Withered to her lair, and they see that she's in the middle of performing the ritual, and that's where the issue really kicks into sequel mode. I'm not going to spoil the rest, but it's very clear that this entire issue is basically the pilot for Medieval Spawn and Rogue Sun crossover series that's coming out next year. To kind of break it down, as a singular issue of Rogue Sun, the pacing here is pretty breakneck. It's maybe too fast. It's like 50% setup, 20% fight, and then 25% sequel bait. And here's the thing. If you look at this not as a Rogue Sun issue number 30, but as chapter 1 of Rogue Sun and Medieval Spawn crossover, it works perfectly. It works as a pilot episode. Its job is to introduce the threats, establish the buddy cop dynamic, and leave you wanting more. And on that front, it absolutely succeeds. It was kind of cool to see Rogue Sun and Medieval Spawn teaming up. We did get a cameo from Sir John in a previous issue, so the fact that Rogue Sun takes place in the Spawn universe isn't surprising. But the funny thing, though, is that it just has me thinking, the Spawnverse is constantly dealing with the apocalyptic level chaos, and yet none of that seems to spill over into Rogue Sun's world. So, like, where are the repercussions? It's just kind of weird to have them in the two of them sharing the same universe, but there's never ever, like, crossover spillage when it comes to the enemies and what's happening in each of their different section of the series. But yeah, seeing these two characters interact has a lot of potential. I just hope that the upcoming series takes time to actually flesh out their chemistry. One thing I can always count on when it comes to Rogue Sun is the artwork. This issue is no exception. So yeah, this was solid. It was entertaining. It does its job well as a prologue. Was the adventure a bit rushed? Yeah. But it gave us, a decent fight. A legitimately interesting villain with a classic tragic backstory. And a character dynamic with a lot of potential. Hopefully, the upcoming series will actually do everything it can with that potential. So yeah, if you're a fan of either character or just kind of love the idea of a fantasy horror superhero team up, then yeah, check out this issue. But I want to know what you think. Are you excited for the Medieval Spawn and Rogue Sun spinoff? Let me know in the comments down below. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I hope to see you next time. Take care. Later. Thank you for watching my video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you didn't, I still want to thank you for watching it this far, and I hope the next one is more to your liking. With that said, thank you once again, and I hope you guys and gals have a good one. Later.